Yes, you can. This is the Canon SL2. Released in 2017, the SL2 was an entry-level Canon DSLR that retailed for about $550. It has since been succeeded by the Canon SL3, but besides 4K and a couple other added features, they're pretty much the same camera. I've been using the SL2 for about 2 years now, and I want to share my top 5 tips on how you can get the absolute most out of this little entry-level camera. All these tips are going to be super practical. You can implement them tomorrow and instantly step up your filmmaking game. Before we get started, let us read from Colossians 3:2 for today's verse of the day. Set your mind on the things above, not on the things that are on earth. The things of this earth, guys, are not gonna last forever. At some point, everything has an end. All right, for tip number 1 is to shoot with longer lenses. There's a reason most Hollywood cinematographers choose to shoot with a 50mm lens, and that's because it's the best representation of the human eye. The Canon 50mm 1.8 is an incredible lens, especially when you look at its $100 price tag. This is a lens you definitely need to have in your film kit. Not only is it going to give you those amazing cinematic images, but at f1.8 it will be a beast in low light, which is definitely needed for an entry-level DSLR, where boosting the ISO past 800 will result in unusable amounts of grain. Nobody wants that. Tip number 2, backlight, backlight, backlight. 99% of the time when I'm shooting a scene, I'm looking at where the light is coming from and placing it behind the subject. This technique is used all the time in Hollywood, and it's just another way to add extra shape and dimension to your subject, to your landscape, or to whatever you're shooting. Of course, with any rule, it can be broken. Just make sure you know why you're breaking it when you do. Tip number 3, Cinestyle. Cinestyle is a picture profile developed by Technicolor that gives you a log-like image right inside of your Canon DSLR. It's easy to install and will give you so much flexibility when grading in post, and will even give you some extra stops of dynamic range. Grading is a huge part of getting that cinematic look, which is why I always use Cinestyle on the SL2 to get the maximum dynamic range and image quality out of the camera. Tip number 4, using widescreen aspect ratios. These are also commonly referred to as black bars and are often just overlaid on top of footage. But what you should do is set your composition source to the aspect ratio that you want to use. Some common ones that I use are 235:1 and 239:1. I've provided some links below with a cheat sheet that you can use to find the aspect ratio that you're looking for. Using these aspect ratios will make your films feel more like a movie, because that's what they actually use in Hollywood. The last and final tip that I have for you guys is to add sharpening and grain to your final footage. While the SL2 does provide a pretty decent image straight out of camera, adding a little bit of sharpening and grain will really make it pop. I personally have been using Red Giant's Renoiser plugin, which is great for adding grain and sharpening all in one effect, but using Premiere's built-in sharpening feature will get you nearly all the way there. And you can always download an overlay grain on top of your footage to give it that little bit of cinematic texture, which is exactly what we're looking for. And those are my 5 tips to get the most out of any entry-level DSLR, like the Canon SL2. If you enjoyed this video, head down and give it a like, and subscribe if you want to see more content, tutorials, short films in the near future. Thanks for watching.